Welcome to another edition of 30 with Tony. Today's subject is, a louse in your house. Get ready for some no holds barred, and let's get it on.
Well, hi, Kemosabe's. It's Tony D'Angelo. It is April 18th, 2024, 3 p.m. Eastern, Ada Domini, in the name of our Lord. The day is so happy to have you here on this special edition of 30 with Tony. The title of this particular episode is A Louse in Your House. Yes. I don't know, really. First of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for taking the show to other places. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for taking this show to places that, I didn't know existed. And I also thank our music contributors for allowing us some really boss music. I I think the music in the clips add a lot of fun to really some very ugly subjects that I don't feel are dealt with consistently enough. Certainly not dealt with by the state-run media of King Governor Ned Lamont the Unaccountable, who only wants you to get his side of the story. They hate people like me because we do our best to tell the truth, and that's what I'm going to do. But I'm grateful to all of you. But this episode, A Louse in Your House, my father was right about me. He would call me his favorite broken record son because there's times I just can't get off of something. Now, I tried. Last night, I tried studying and reading and looking at different things, all valuable, all worth commentary, all worth analysis. But I keep coming back to this work, live, ride, workforce housing issue. And it's always, how can I put it? In my life and in my experience, I find that slimy, crooked things always seem to feed off of their own energy or to provide energy within themselves. It's like they never stop giving the rot that they usually do. And it's something when you actually, you're driving in the car, you're standing in the shower, you're looking out the window, and you think of something and say, what is wrong with me? Why didn't I see this before? So we're going to take you to where we left off last week, and we're going to bring you forward. And there's a lot here. Some of it is reinforcement, but some of it is new ground. And I think you need to know this. And this is really going to start not stepping on the toes, but really kind of kicking them where it hurts with respect to, the previously sacred cows in the state, whom we never really seemed to consider because they were looking out for our good. And, who are you to question them? Shut up, you little peon. They're serving the public. They're working for your benefit. But we're finding out a lot of things that really don't lend itself to that. Okay, so let's start some shares. And I'm going to do this here. And I'm going to go over to here. And I'm going to go over to here. And I'm going to go over to here. This is where we left off last week. We were talking about this particular gentleman, Pete Harrison. A guy from Central Casting. He's a white guy. He's got a very neatly trimmed beard. I couldn't buy a beard like that if I tried to grow something like that. The baseball hat, the hands are out, ready to work, the yellow vest, and he is the apostle of the work, live, ride movement. He started out being a, sort of a humble grassroots activist. I understand he is one of, shall we say, grew up with means in a fairly well-to-do part of the state, was educated in the best schools that the land has to offer. And he really, he's very concerned about having workforce affordable housing in the state of Connecticut. Now, talking actually over the weekend with my pal Mark from West Hartford, and he was off on the founders of Desegregate Connecticut, the Luke Bronin and Sarah Bronin, and he raised a very interesting point. And he said, all these people who champion the cause of workforce and affordable housing, you'll never see them live in it. You'll never see them, quote unquote, be like a hedge fund manager. I believe in this stock I'm selling, so I'm invested in it too. I could be as wrong as a $9 bill, but if you lose your shirt, I am losing my shirt, my robe, my slippers, my pipe, and my cat. No, there's none of that. They just pontificate. But where Mr. Harrison, a little bit by way of review, where Mr. Harrison went around for years, a couple of years, saying, I'm this grassroots guy and whatever. He's actually part of a food chain of people wanting to take advantage of Infrastructure Act money, Biden building money. And he now works for the Regional Plan Association. Well done now, good and faithful, socialist acolyte. You move up the food chain. And the Regional Plan Association gets its juice from the Open Societies Network, and that, of course, is Pappy George Soros. So that's how the money flows. Anybody looking at this thing, anybody commenting on this thing and saying, I need this housing because people have all this other stuff, they don't care anything about that. There's money to be made. You got that, people? But anyway, so here's Mr. Harrison, and he is moving up the line. Now, the one thing the well-educated and neatly coiffed and bearded Mr. Harrison has not dealt with and will not deal with, and what none of these characters will deal with, is what causes the housing shortage. Now, me, myself, and I'm just a pea brain. I look at a state really in economic decline. I look at a state where we had, as Bob Swick said in his article last Saturday, that would have been April 13th, we have a net out-migration of almost gargantuan proportions. People are not coming into Connecticut to do anything. I mean, they might come to gamble. I don't know if they go to watch the Yukon Huskies play basketball, but they have no reason to be here. I mean, we're losing industries left and right. And so where is it? Is it electric boat building submarines? We'll get to that in a little bit. But it's like, where? How? How is this possible? Now, our homeless population does increase. Our homeless population is, shall we say, indicative of a clueless, inept, corrupt, excuse-making, crybaby political system of no economic sense whatsoever, that where the light does not go on to say, hey, I've got homeless people here. What does that mean? Well, people don't have jobs. And if they had jobs, they try to find a place to live and a place to work. Now it's like, well, there's not housing. Well, okay, fine. There's not housing, but yet somehow throughout all of history, whenever there was jobs without housing, housing came. Housing came. You could house people. You could do it. You could go into an armory. You could go into an empty office building. You can house people while you're doing this thing. And that's not a concern, in as much as these are working people. They will find their way out. They will find their way to something that they want to own, because they don't want to be there any more than any right thinking person would want to be there. So it's all a manufactured mess. And what they have in Massachusetts with the lieutenant governor telling kids to tell their parents, isn't it, can we have a migrant in the home, and that's it? That's all contrived nonsense. They are creating a problem to collapse the system. And how do I know that? Because no sane person would allow this type of a problem to happen. It's manufactured. So here's the neatly coiffed and highly educated and well-spoken, and albeit entirely confused and deluded, Mr. Harrison. So last week, I asked a question, and I said, you got this work for you. If there is a genuine need, if there is, I said, bear with me. I'll bear with you in your folly. You bear with me in mine. Why is it that we never talk about these people who need the housing owning the housing in terms of a cooperative apartment, in terms of having ownership in their neighborhood? Because it is well proven, and it is well settled, and it is undisputable. Even the accusing Marxists will tell you, well, you live in a good place, and you got this, and you got better schools, and you got all this other stuff, and these people don't have anything, and you need a high rise, and we need to democratize, and all this other kind of. But they will never say that the people where they want to dilute the zoning are inferior in terms of social issues, in terms of crime, in terms of business development issues, in terms of, because these people, in terms of the schools, because they take an interest in their community, because they have their money invested there. It's a long time premise. The operative thing is that they want to separate you from ownership. They want to do the ownership for you and basically make you a supplement to the Pete Harrisons of the world. So I've been asking the question, and I went on Twitter this past Saturday, and I was prompted by the dear scholarly analyst ladies of CT 169 Strong, who were responding in very technical terms and refuting the article or the opinion piece from a gentleman, Tucker Salles, whom I understand is heavily involved in politics in the center of the state and in the town of Simsbury, saying work, live, ride isn't a mandate. It's a new path forward. In other words, we want to do this. We want to be your friend. This is something we need to do for all these people because, and these people like the CT 169 ladies are just, obstructionists and, under their breath, they're horrible, evil, wicked, white women, racist, you get the drift. So my friends refuted the argument of Tucker, and actually just want to get his last name right. His name is Tucker Salles, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's a very detailed analysis. And what it does is that in technical terms, this dog won't hunt. This airplane won't fly. But I'm not that bright. I'm not that erudite. I'm not that scholarly. I am a Ripplebaum High School graduate of Stamford, Connecticut. Okay, so, call me an idiot. That's okay. You've called me worse. The questions I have been asking about this, which no one's dealing with at all, is if work, live, ride were a serious movement in the least way, it would be working on giving, and this is my tweet, people with a genuine need for housing ownership of these apartments. We never heard that discussion. Never, ever. We'd be giving them ownership, and guess what they have then? They have an asset, and that's their home. So they're going to take care of it. They're going to pick up the garbage. They're going to do what they can to keep it safe. They're going to want to have adequate schools and adequate policing. We talked about Co-op City in New York, which basically is its own community. It has its own police force, its own markets. It has its own tenant associations. There is a 5 to 7 year waiting list to get in. You can't get into the place because that's how desirable it is. And it's just, very, very simple, very, very simple model. Give people shares of stock in a cooperative apartment, make them owners, and they will make the thing work for themselves. They don't need government. They don't need somebody like the well-bearded, coiffed, highly educated Mr. Harrison. So we then asked the question, we asked it last week, and we ask it again. In this whole work, live, ride, fly, scream, barf thing, where is the protections for people as far as drug addicted people, people with criminal records, people who were violent, people who were sex offenders, people who were child abusers? Is anybody looking at that in our whole freaking legislature? Has anybody asked those questions? No. Leave it to D'Angelo. He's asking the question. Bob Duff, what do you say about that? Stephen Harding, what are you saying about that? You ever think about that? I mean, right now, you're all with the same brush as far as I'm concerned, because we're talking a matter of public health and safety. Vinnie Candelora, what do you say about that? You ever think about that? Now, it's okay if you haven't considered it, because I didn't consider it until a couple of weeks ago. But now that you have this information, now that you know it, should you not be asking this question and asking it readily? And it's that, this whole thing, they've come this far to promote Mr. Harrison to the higher echelon of work, live, ride, and desegregate Connecticut and regional plan and all this other sort of stuff. And we're going to tell you how to live and what to drive and what to eat and what train to get on. And bugs aren't good if you don't put sugar on them, that kind of thing. They're gonna, they're gonna do all that, but they've come to this point, and we've got critical questions as to the safety and integrity of communities. Okay, public safety, right? We prize public safety in Connecticut. The highways are a train wreck, and the people were doing marijuana as they're driving, and nobody really seems to care a heck of a whole lot about that other than the people affected. Again, I'm a pea brain, right? I do not have the educational pedigree of one like that. But when you concentrate people with issues in an area, you increase the propensity for bad things happening if you're not screening these people. Now, a cooperative apartment, they're going to have rules like Co-op City. We don't want substance abusers. We don't want child abusers. We don't want people with records. So it's like you got to straighten up and fly right to get in there, because this is a community of owners that care about their community. So this whole thing of we need workforce housing is a bogus mess, because if we really needed workforce housing, all of these turkeys would be signing on to the fact to give these people ownership. But they don't want to give these people ownership, because that completely eliminates the need for people like that. But anyway, now you might say to me, you might come to me and you might say to me, well, that's not entirely correct, because we really do have a need for affordable housing. Now, why we don't have affordable housing largely is because of a stupid presidential administration who killed energy policy, who made, we talked about this last Tuesday on the Lee Elsey show. Everything is driven by energy. Everything is driven by fuel. Everything is driven by the cost of getting from one place to another. I do this show. There's a light, there's a spot, there's a computer, there's electricity. There is a heater on. Everything takes energy. Now, if the cost of these things go up, my costs go up. And in my business, I must increase my costs, but you never hear any idiotic legislator of any party talking about we need to have affordable fuel. Never, never, never. Because, it's not climate change. It's not, we're just, well, look, you can do fossil fuel and save the environment at the same time, but there's no money in that. There's no political interest in that, and we can talk about these windmills, and instead of going to a CTDEEP and literally shaming them and attacking them for giving us these farces that we're going to deal with, you sit there and you play along and you remain silent. And we wonder why we're in the mess we're in. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. So instead of me going off, let's look at the housing need for a place like Electric Boat. Remember here, this pretty young lady, Eleni Kavros de Groix, who is the patron saint of affordable housing, who wants to have affordable housing because we need it for the workforce. We need it for Electric Boat. We need it for, these are things that we really need to do. Okay, I'm going to follow this down. We looked at this article, I think, several weeks back. She's talking about the poor. She's talking about putting housing in, shall we say, in back of churches. We looked at that. And in this article, Connecticut Examiner, this I believe was it February or March of 2024? This would have been, let's just see. Actually, this goes back to January. Gee, time sure flies. For instance, Electric Boat is looking to build a ton of housing because they have all of these employee shortages. Carver DeGraw says they really need to get more employees in, but they need their employees to live relatively local within a certain radius. You want to focus it to where the jobs are. Okay, Ms. Carver DeGraw. If this is a correct statement, I kind of wonder about that. I kind of wonder about where this is all going. I kind of wonder about, with my issues with my local congressperson, Jim dropped the ball, Courtney. If this Joe dropped the ball, Courtney. If the need is pronounced, we're talking working people, right? Okay, we can agree on it. People need to work. They need to show up sober. They need to be skilled. They need to be trained. They need to be diligent. They need to be regular in their jobs. They need to get adequate food. They need to live in a safe place. They have to get adequate rest and sleep. Okay, fine. If this is the desire, what are you going to do about this? Anybody looking at this? Drug abusers, sex offenders, and violent criminals. Is there any protection in your model of we need affordable workforce housing, but yet we're going to let everybody else in? Now, do you think for a moment, of course, I don't think you do, that these people, excuse me, will be people that will want to go, and if they have good employment, they will want to have families and live in the community and build things and grow things and perhaps own homes and perhaps trade up. Why aren't you talking about cooperative apartments for them? Because what you've really got here is an excuse and a farce. That's basically it. You have no model for quote unquote workforce housing, because workforce housing, you're going to want to make that workforce productive. And to do that, you're going to want to give them ownership. You're going to want to give them a safe place to live. You're going to want to give them a right to govern, because they're intelligent people. You don't need to govern these people. They will figure out their own way. If freaking government does what it's supposed to do, keep things safe, keep the roads safe, keep the fuel prices affordable, educate the children and things like that. But to do that, people like Ms. Cavros DeGraw over here have got to get out of the way. They don't want to get out of the way. So I struggle, because if we go back to Jump Street, if we tag up here at first base, we go back to Mr. Harrison. If this work, live, ride thing were, shall we say, genuine, why aren't we talking ownership for people needing homes? Now, ownership's too expensive. Well, that's bogus BS crap. Have you seen the prices at Co-op City? They're very affordable. They're very affordable. In fact, so affordable that there's a 7-year waiting list for a 2-bedroom. It's absolutely insane. But the reason why you do not have a situation of let's make people own their own apartments and self-govern, because by definition, it gets rid of the people like Mr. Harrison and the people like Mr. Graw. You don't need them. People will govern themselves. Now I am not, just so we're clear, I am not a mad libertarian, because unfortunately, people cannot govern themselves to the nth degree. It would be a wonderful world if everybody could govern themselves, 70% as well as I do. And I'm not perfect, but just things like, pick up the trash and don't build stupid things that don't fit on your property, and don't create public safety hazards, and drive at a reasonable speed and things like that of their own. But too many people are out of control. They're not going to do that. So we do need laws, but yet we need laws that facilitate people. We don't need people slaving to laws that are driven by the politically connected and the people like the useful props like Mr. Harrison. But what it basically comes down to is, if this work, live, ride nonsense is really something, if it's really a need, come out and tell me what you're going to do with drug abusers, sex offenders, and violent criminals, and tell me why you will not make these apartments cooperative. Why you will not make people have the pride of ownership and the responsibility of ownership. Why not? Why not? Because your argument's a farce. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything based in reality. And it is entirely non-capitalist. It is entirely non-ownership. It is entirely driven to make government bigger against the average citizen who wants to own a home and have a business and raise a family, because that person is an impediment to what these people want to do. It is absolutely clear what this is all about, because if it wasn't the case, you'd be giving people ownership, and you would be sensitive to the fact of there are other people who are vested in communities that have paid property taxes 10, 20, 30, 40 years, who have paid the assessments, who have thrown their garbage out, who didn't get in trouble with the law, and you're penalizing them because some slob wants to put an apartment building in, and there ain't no idea as to what the governance is, and there ain't no idea as to the abusers and the drug addicts, and that's going to be really good. Okay, you're going to have, mothers with children next to sex offenders. Anybody think of that? No, it's not. What about the poor guy working over here at Electric Boat? He's got intricate things that he's got to pay attention to, and the person next to him is having drug running all night. Any rules about that? No. But this is the whole thing. Why don't we give money to make it easy for people to have their apartments, if indeed there is a genuine shortage? And the answer is, look at it this way. Look, if you are a big, money-sucking developer of these things, you put the thing up. You do everything that qualifies you for the Infrastructure Act to get the money that you need in order to do this thing. And then you don't care who goes in there at all for any reason. You just take whatever rent comes in, and then the minute screw-ups happen, you say, oh, it's the city's problem. Oh, it's the management's problem. Oh, this, oh, that. I'm just the owner. I'm just taking this thing in. I'm just, I'm not. Or you do the old trick that I used to see in New York years ago, is you incorporate the building in a place like the Cayman Islands or some secret jurisdiction where, if something happens, if there's an incident in the building and somebody gets pushed down the stairs, or, there's a gang incident or something like that, and you say, well, I want to sue, Mr. Fat Cat developer because he neglected this building. Yeah, go sue him in the Caymans. Go sue him where you can't find him under 3 corporations. I mean, this is how the game is played. This is how the game is played. And what they do is they parade out to you people like this to tell you what a rotten, racist idiot you are for not being open-minded to those that don't have what you do. Now, I'm very sensitive to those that don't have what I might, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that you don't solve a problem by making it bigger. If there is a need for moderate income and low income housing, you're going to create a slum, idiot, if you don't give these people ownership to make the thing better. Government will not solve it. Father Panic Village did not solve itself. It had to be torn down after drugs, gangs, crime, rapes, bullets on the wall, you name it. Southfield Village in Stanford, same thing. St. John's Tower, the faith-based community, they failed miserably. Why? Because it's going to fail. It has to fail, because the people involved in living there are not invested in the success of it. And there's a lot more of them than there are you. It's just, it just doesn't work. But anyway, there is how could I put it? I was awake in Rippleham High School some of the time, years back in Stamford, Connecticut. And I was of the impression when I was going to school, actually, Mr. Harrison, we don't need to look at you any further. I was of the impression that there were largely two political spheres in the United States of America. There was Democrats and there was Republicans. And Democrats were program people. I mean, everybody basically believed in America. Now we've got pretty much sane people and communist wacko Marxists, and moderate people of Democrat or Republican many times are kind of left, kind of by themselves in a lot of places. And that's not endorsing one candidate over the other, but roughest place to be right now is a person who was a, quote unquote, hardline, mainline Democrat. I don't know where you go. I don't know what you believe. But you certainly can't, many of them are very, very, very troubled by this reign of Marxism that we now see, and nihilism, frankly. But basically, the Republican universe was capitalism. People will make money, bosses will make more than workers, but workers can become bosses, or they can choose to be workers, or they can choose to have a life where they're making money as workers and making extremely good money, or having skilled trades and things like that. We're not going to get in the way of that. And, we believe in limited government. We believe in a safe United States of America. We believe in education and things. And Democrats generally had the thing of, where we may believe in those things, we have to increase taxes. We have to increase the support because there's a need in the cities and places, or in the rural areas where people, you're asking them to, shall we say, raise themselves up by their bootstraps, but they have no boots. This was always, these were the two main things. The bigger things were agreed upon. They were tacit assumptions, but these were the two things. That said, I grew up in a world, which is the world I gravitated to, that, or the side of the globe I gravitated to, that Republicans believed in ownership, and they believed in capitalism, and they believed in giving people the chance to make their own money and start their own businesses and make that friendly and give people opportunity. So what happens is, to me, and this is where, you live, and you live under certain assumptions. You walk into a Catholic church, you expect to see, a priest or a nun. If you walk into shall we say, a Ford dealership, you expect to see Fords. And that's, these are just things that were kind of like always there. But a very interesting article that was pointed out to me. This is in the business section of, I think it is the Milford Mirror, March 23, 2024. A former Milford representative and the state GOP chairman joined an Eastern developer on a workforce housing plan. Now, in my brain, shouldn't the state GOP be championing the well-being of people that own homes, and people that own businesses, and people who have invested and paid the taxes in this state for all the stupidity I've seen over 30, 40 years? Shouldn't they be like saying, well, we have a lot of problems with this, and this model doesn't work, and how that all fits? And so I kind of wonder who's really advocating for the sake of the homeowner, the person who wants to live their life and send their kids to school and own a home and live peaceably and not become political activists as such. They have other things to do, like pay bills and feed kids. And I look at this article, and we have a developer here, Steve Shapiro, and James Amon. Remember James Amon, right? James Amon was the Democrat state representative for many, many years, now turned lobbyist. There ought to be a law against that. I mean, really, for somebody to leave the legislature and just start, glad handing the people that are there. And it reeks of conflict. It reeks of confusion. It reeks of who's getting tweaked to do what. And here they are. They're in front of the Trumbull Planning and Zoning Commission talking about this affordable housing thing. Read down a little bit. An Easton developer is working with Milford's former Speaker of the Connecticut House of Representatives, James Amon. You remember James Amon, right? He was in the legislature a number of years. Couple of weeks back, we looked at this. Our lovely should be abolished Connecticut Department of Economic Development. I like to call it the Department of Economic Destruction, issued $50 million in tax credits without authorization. And this is part of that whole farcical film tax credit thing that was around maybe 15 years ago. And it is one of the most aggravating things I have ever seen, because the auditors of public accounts in Connecticut, I see there's very, very few things in Connecticut that are done well and done right and done for the benefit of the citizen. I'm sorry, just the way it is. But the auditors of public accounts do marvelous work. They do great professional analysis, and these things are toothless. There should be fines, there should be penalties, there should be hearings, and if necessary, there should be criminal prosecutions. But we have none of that. It's just that they do these things, and essentially they're great works of art that you can hang on the wall and you can, kind of look at. But the Department of Economic and Community Destruction looked at it and said, well, they're not right. Let's change the rule. Now, if I blow a rule as a private person, as a private business person, fines, penalties, all kinds of, possible loss of my business, things like that, the government slob gets to say, change the rule. And then we're supposed to sit there and say, you are a marvelous public servant. Oh, we thank you so much for what you do. I haven't lost my mind by now. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off the point. We want to look at James Amon, right? These are the people who are buddying up to the effort of workforce housing, creating one disaster with the tax credit of Blue Sky Studios way back when, your tax money in the street. Jody Rowe was the governor, and yeah, Connecticut's going to be Hollywood. Yeah, and I'm also going to be playing center field for the New York Yankees in the 3 p.m. game today. But that's basically it. So instead of looking at these people and saying, well, they have this thing in the legislature, they've been around doing whatever they've done. I mean, that's not to in as much say Mr. Amon. People have said things about Mr. Amon. I think his record speaks for himself. But what we do is we recycle him. And now we bring him back out. And here he is doing workforce housing. And this is good. And this is a real good thing. And this is going to be good for Connecticut, I guess, much like film tax credits were, right, Jim? Yeah, I get it. So when you come down to here and you think, well, what about the Republican Party? Well, if we go to here, the chairman of the Republican Party, Ben Proto, is working on the workforce housing plan. Now, he's also involved business-wise with some of the people involved. And it's like, is that not a conflict? Is that not taking your interest and perhaps your office and your gravitas with the state to get something done for it? I mean, do we have government, or do we have you hire your person to get the job done? Government, which is, I don't know if the term is oligarchy. I guess that's the technical term, but basically it's kind of whatever you want to call it, package corruption. And I'm not saying that in this situation, but basically it's, we had a COVID-19 test, right? We don't know if the test was good. information comes out, it wasn't. And it was tied to King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable's family interest. So, people don't know if they had COVID, didn't have COVID, whatever the case may be, but your tax dollars went to prop up a very lucrative IPO for these people. And they want to give you more of the same. And they want to tell you that you need to do workforce housing and that these things are there. And they want you to believe them. I mean, basically, when you see this, you need to remind them as far as who they are and what their track record is. They never want to account for what they've done. Never, 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 never. I bring up things that were done not that long ago, and they run like rabbits because they know they did it and they know what they were trying to do. So basically, when you read down this particular article a little bit, this is a little bit of a choppy presentation, and I apologize to you for that. But all hands are on deck to have affordable workforce housing. So I'll say to Mr. Amon, I'll say to Mr. Proto, I'll say to the people who are involved, including here the administration, the King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, who wants to provide an additional 2,000 units of housing and 200 million to expand. If you're serious about this, give these people ownership of these apartments. You're subsidizing the developer, give them ownership. And you see, this is where the whole thing fizzles, because this is not about housing people. This is about creating a money machine for the guy putting up the building and wrecking your neighborhood and causing a public safety disaster and having this, whatever you want to call it, this political clandestine, whatever in the hell it is, with these politicians who tell you that they are out for you and concerned about you, but really it looks like they're concerned for their own pockets and how they're going to get over on you and make a buck using your tax dollars. That's basically it. I mean, I've shown you what's here. Tell me what is, tell me what isn't. You can read on a little bit. It's always close to transportation. Everything is close to the downtown. They want to remove your ability to get into your old egg beater gas powered car and go where you want to go. But and then this whole thing, we're going to have the municipalities craft their own legislation and do their own thing. Well, basically, the municipality says, well, we want a little 6-unit thing here. And so they'll get starved out or ostracized some other way to do it bigger and better. And we'll never look at who the people are with their hands in the pie and people who are making money out of this thing. About 830G, I need not belabor that to you. Quote from Mr. Proto, Shapiro's working with Ben Proto, and you've got to ask yourself there again, what are the, where is the public interest compromised? Not saying it is, not saying it isn't, but it certainly gives that appearance, because it's, if there is a thrust of people wanting to be Republican, saying we support home ownership and we support the right to say we want to do what is in our towns by ourselves, and they end up supporting and donating money to the Republican Party, and the chair is promoting this workforce housing stuff that effectively can ruin their communities. Is there, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I need to stop doing this. Maybe I need to go off the air. I don't know. But basically, this whole thing kind of reeks to me. And it's all comes down to one thing. It all comes down to somebody making money, and the machine and the political machine and the state-run media turning to you and saying, well, we're doing this for your benefit. And I just want to see if there's anything else here that's worth calling to attention. This is an interesting thing here. And it's, well, if we make the housing tied more to somebody's income, we could modulate this better. It's like, well, listen, For the same amount of money you're throwing at these developers, you can make affordable loans for people to buy their own homes and manage them and police their own communities. But you see that effectively, this whole shell game kind of gets collapsed at that point, because these people who are in this thing telling you that you need it, they will not make any money. Yeah. Hey, listen, it's a great world. I used to see this when I worked with the large firm in New York. I didn't work in that department, but people were suing apartment owners who were in, thank God we didn't represent them, but who were in these foreign jurisdictions that they couldn't get their hands on. I mean, it's just basically, it's like, what about the neighborhood? What about the other people, the schools? What about the safety? I don't care about you. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with what they're going to make. And let's see if there's anything else to look at. So, I mean, yes, this is all. You can loan money as well as you can to an owner as you could to a developer, but of course you're not going to do it. And we're going to stop the share right there. So once again, I turn to you, and I turn to every single person in the legislature. If you are against people owning their own homes, you need to say it. You need to say it. If you are of the belief that the state can solve housing issues better than homeowners can themselves, you need to say it. We need to know who you are. You can no longer exist in a cloak of silence. And when you say it, you're going to have to explain to me, and you're going to have to explain to others as to where you are going to succeed, where Father Panic Village failed, where Southfield Village failed, where St. John's Towers failed, where Cabrini Green failed. What is your unique model that will cause you to be this wonderful person, to be this purveyor of safe, affordable, good old workforce housing? And how are you going to do it without a policy for drug offenders, sex offenders, people with criminal tendencies, and people who can hurt children? How are you going to do that? If you do that, I will stand corrected. I will have you on this show, and I will apologize to you personally. But I don't think you can. I know you can't. And that's basically it. We're watching our American way of life dissolve in a haze of political hideousness, stupidity, craziness, Marxism, and obfuscation, and they want you to believe it. My job here is to do my best to tell you the truth. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. We are cooking, Mama. We'll be right back with the rest of the show right after this.
With the cloud above her head, here comes Rainy Jane. If she stops you, man, she'll bore you with her sad refrain. It's the same old story we've heard 1,000 times before. She'll tell you how he broke her heart, and then the tears will start to fall. Hey, Rainy Jane, you gotta stop your crying sometime. Come on, Rainy Jane, it's up to you to make your own sweet sunshine. Jane, you're just the shadow of the girl you used to be. Once you used to live for life, but now you live for sympathy. It's true, your heart's been broken, and you've got the right to cry. But if you're gonna keep it up, the sunshine's gonna pass you by.
Hello, fun seekers. Since we like to mix fun with business, please enjoy another video classic clip, courtesy of the producers of 30 with Tony.
Hello, this is Sarah, today's 30 with Tony concierge. Today's classic clip is the trailer for the feature film, Sands of Iwo Jima. Sands of Iwo Jima is a 1949 war film directed by Alan Dwan and starring John Wayne. The movie is set during World War II and is known for its portrayal of the Battle of Iwo Jima. Here's a concise summary. The film follows the journey of a group of U.S. Marine Corps soldiers led by the tough and seasoned Sergeant John M. Stryker. Stryker is haunted by personal demons and is both hated and feared by his men, who perceive him as a cold-hearted sadist. However, as they land on the treacherous beaches of Iwo Jima, they begin to understand the reason for Stryker's rigid form of discipline. Survival in the bloody battle depends on the lessons he has drilled into them. The squad becomes more closely knit, and Stryker's relationship with the men warms as they face the bloodiest island battle of the War 123. In summary, Sands of Iwo Jima portrays the challenges, camaraderie, and sacrifices of Marines during a pivotal moment in history.
These are your boys, who John Wayne as Sergeant Stryker forged into fighting men. Men who said he was as hard-hearted as steel. But one woman knew differently. So long.
So long, Sergeant. I'll pray for you.
A letter from my wife after 18 months. You know where she is? In England, entertaining troops. Entertaining troops? Why isn't she here entertaining me? I'm a troop.
Guys who laughed at life under the shadow of death. This is their story. A story the world will never forget.
Well, you can sit here and be tough if you want to, but I'm going out there and get that guy. And the only way you can stop me is to kill me.
That's just what I'll do.
Well, thanks, Kemasabis. Thanks for staying with us. And I really, really, really do appreciate you being here. And I really do appreciate having this opportunity to share with you what I believe is the most critical information. And, information and communication are probably the two most, shall I say, necessary things other than food and water. I will say a relationship with God, but just as far as natural things that you really need. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how prosperous and rich you may think you are. If you can't execute and if you can't communicate what it is that you want to do and can't do so truthfully, you're useless. You're a great automobile. You're a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari without gasoline. Several weeks back on the Lee Elsey show, I had mentioned how the congressman from my district, Joe Courtney, how his office had completely blown ridiculously the opportunity for 50, 60,000 taxpayers in Windham County, Connecticut to receive a 60-day delay in filing and paying their tax returns, where Windham County had a much more acute nature damage than New London County did. And all they had to do was just read the stupid book. And my discussion with the general counsel in Joe Courtney's office was, and she was like, I can't do anything. I said, yeah, it is. It's in a cookbook. It's called a congressional guide. So, stupid things like that politicians do cost us all dearly. So my function is to give you my best. And I'm not saying I've got the right answer all the time. And if I am corrected, I want to give you the right information. That's really my focus. But people who are politically involved, people who are invested in the status quo and or telling a falsehood to you, they don't care about that, and they don't care about you. And this is why I tell people, I'm not for people losing their jobs, but what I am for is truthful information. And if the so-called state-run media cannot support itself, then it needs to be started out, basically. And it probably won't be started out because the state will find the money under some false justification to keep it running, so they can keep on, lying and obfuscating. I'm not saying every single report is a lie, but, case in point, most recently, there was an attack of a girl in Greenwich, and it was a racial thing, and it was ugly, and it was hideous, and New York news had it, but Connecticut news didn't. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you everything you need to know. So that's basically it, and it's just, how can I put it? You have to share what we're doing here, not for my sake. If you don't like me, find somebody telling you the truth and share them. But share it to your friends, your neighbors, people that you're working with, because what they've got going on here is basically one entire false narrative. And there's an old biblical principle, faith comes by hearing. So if you keep hearing stupid things, you're going to do stupid things. And if you're not strong enough to say, no, that's not right. So if you leave on these false reports about, state's doing great and we're safe and crime is down and we have a great economy and things like that, you will believe it, but yet you will become so blinded to the fact that you won't see the objectivity of it. And that's really what, I intend to do here. If we can stop false information, we are going a long way to making this a better state and a better world. And basically, how could I put it? Stupid legislators and Congress people often don't see this, but economics win out over everything. The dollar is the adjudicator of us all. Look at what happened with woke corporations, right? And what happened in stock prices. Look at what happened with DEI and what DEI did, to corporations. And the only people you see now doing DEI are universities and government, where they could tax the poor citizen into thinking this is something really valuable. you have a critical operation where it is determined that you could either live or die, but we're going to make sure you have a DEI qualified surgeon. I'm not crazy, right? This is why we do what we do, but it's imperative that if you like this show, you share it. If you like what George Colley's doing, you share that. I share George. You know, these are things that are really right now. Yeah, they're fun, and it's fun to do shows, and it's fun to have classic clips and music, but this is really critical to well-being and the well-being of your children and the well-being of your city, your state, and your country, and your town. That's all I can tell you. But after all that, let's have some jokes. Hey, it's spring, right? You know, springtime, spring cleaning, and we got to clean things up. Actually, if you want to clean my stables, I don't think I could pay you enough money, but I've got some cleaning jokes for you. Why did the burglar take a shower? He wanted to make a clean getaway. My friend wanted to know if I had any laundry puns. I told her I got loads of them. How did the dinosaur get clean? With a meteor shower. What is a clean house a sign of? That there's no internet connection, probably no pizza boxes either. What did the broom say to the vacuum? I'm so tired of people pushing us around, and that's a good place to leave. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemasabis. Thanks for being with us. We're going to see you next week with an even better show. And as Dick Clark would say in American Bandstand, so long.